Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my video talking about my September 2023 TBR. These are the books to be read on my pile for September 2023. I have a total of 10 books I plan to read this month. Now, I waited a little bit later than normal for this video because I actually didn't know specifically what I'd be reading in a few ways, because I was waiting on the Dune movie to decide whether it was going to stay or whether it was going to be pushed back. And so as this comes out, I don't know if the decision's been made, but as I'm recording this, it's not been made yet. And so I decided, you know what, I'll push it off anyway. I'll still have time to read it in October or November if it still comes out in November like it's supposed to. So I decided to instead put in some other books. So I have a total of 10 books to read this month. I have some fantasy novels, some sci-fi, some Star Trek, some Star Wars, a mystery novel, a young adult novel. So I think it's going to be quite a lot of fun reading this month. So the first book I'll talk about is the only new release on the schedule this month, and that is Tales of Light and Life, a Star Wars The High Republic anthology. It's categorized as a YA anthology online, but we've never had a YA anthology for Star Wars, so I wonder if it's actually going to be a middle grade anthology, which we have had before. So regardless, we're getting an anthology of short stories for the High Republic that comes out in September. And I believe that the ebook has already come out. So I believe that some people have already started working on it. I know some of the book reviewers online that get early release copies have already read it. But I'm planning on reading this, and I'm not the biggest short story collection fan, but this is one that I figured I want to read it as fast as possible because I'm part of the High Republic reading community, and I want to read everything that I can. So that's the first book on my list. Next, I'm going to talk about some fantasy books. So the first fantasy book I'll talk about is The Fall of Shannara, the Scar Invasion, or Scar, however you pronounce it, Invasion. This is the second book in the Fall of Shannara tetralogy. Terry Brooks decided he was finally going to end his Shannara series with a 4-book series. The first book, The Black Elfstone, I am starting today as I'm filming this recording. So next month I'll be reading, The Scar Invasion, and I love Terry Brooks. Some of his books hit or miss. Some of his later books have been misses more often, but still I love Terry Brooks, and I want to finish out the Shannara series so that I can say I can have completed it, and also want to see where he takes the series. So this is the second book in the Fall of Shannara out of 4. So I'm excited to see what it goes. And each book in this series gets longer, which I find a little bit humorous. Next on my list is a kind of a beat-up book, because that's how I found it at a bookstore. But it is A Hero Born by Michael Stackpole. Now, Michael Stackpole has written some fantasy novels that I love and some Star Wars books that I love, and I mostly enjoy him because of his knowledge and his wisdom on the publishing industry. He talks about the business of publishing in a way that many authors just can't, because he has such a rich knowledge of it. And in this book and its sequel, which I also own, he has like little pieces of information in the back of the books that talk about the publishing industry, which I really find fascinating. And this book was meant to be a tie-in to a game somehow, but I don't think the game actually, The Realms of Chaos, and I don't think the game actually ever came out or something. So I'm interested to see what this kind of book, it looks like your standard fantasy novel with it's an okay cover. It's better than his Eyes of Silver cover, but it's not a great cover. So we'll see how I feel about A Hero Born. Next, I have a science fiction novel by David Weber. It is Honor Among Enemies. It is the next book. I believe it is the 6th book in the Honor Harrington series. This is a tome. It passes the 500-page mark, which for me is a tome, which means I have 2 tomes this month, by the way. And this book is it is following the events of Flag and Exile, and I really enjoy the character of Honor Harrington. I enjoy reading this universe. David Weber's a great science fiction author, so I'm interested to read this book as my sci-fi book for the month. Now, getting into my Star Trek books. I have 2 books planned to read for Star Trek. 2 very different type of books. One of them is a Deep Space Nine novel titled Force and Motion by Jeffrey Lang. First of all, I love this cover. I think this is a superb cover. I've read I think 2 books by Jeffrey Lang so far, and I have more of his Star Trek novels. So I do want to get into reading his books more. And this follows Nog and Maxwell and O'Brien. And Nog and O'Brien are fascinating characters. So I'm really interested to see how this book pans out. Next, I have an original series novel titled Ishmael by Barbara Hambly. This is an older book. You can tell it's an older book based off the kind of yellowed pages. Barbara Hambly wrote Star Trek novels. She wrote Star Wars novels. She wrote fantasy. I know her most because Brandon Sanderson talks about her as being the reason he got into reading because of her book Dragon's Bane, which I keep looking for in my local bookstore and can't find. But this is one of her Star Trek novels, and I've actually heard some interesting things about this book from different people online, so I'm really interested to see how it works for me as a reader. It's Star Trek number 23. If you read the numbered novels, it's number 23. So it's a short book, so it should be lots of fun to read. Next, going into some more Star Wars novels, I talked about the canon book for the month. I actually have 2 Legends books. Originally, it was just going to be 1, but because of me pushing back reading Dune, I decided to read 2 Legends books, and they are both from the Fate of the Jedi series, Omen and Abyss. By the time this video comes out, I'll have already read the first Fate of the Jedi novel, Outcasts. Wait, right? Is it Outcasts? Yeah, Outcasts. I'm about to read it as I'm recording this. And so these are books 2 and 3 in the series. Book 2, Omen, is written by Christy Golden. Book 3, Abyss, is written by Troy Denning. And I really enjoy these types of long-form Star Wars series, so I think I'm really going to enjoy these. I've heard a little bit, and I've been spoiled a little bit on some of the storytelling, but not all. So I'm actually very interested to see how I feel about this. So those are my Star Wars books for the month. Next, I have a mystery novel to read this month that I'm very excited to read, and it is Murder on the Orient Express. I don't love this cover version, but this is what they had at the local bookstore, and it was pretty cheap. But this is I guess it's the movie tie-in edition, which I don't love calling it a movie tie-in edition, because to me, if you're going to call something a tie-in, it needs to be an original book, and not just a reprint of a. Anyway. This is one of Agatha Christie's most famous novels, and unfortunately, yet again, I've been spoiled on it. But I think it's gonna be a great read, and I think it's gonna be lots of fun. So that'll be Murder on the Orient Express, and then I can watch the movie finally. I haven't watched the movie. And then the last book I have for the month is the YA book I want to read this month, and that is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is the Hunger Games prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy. It is turning into a movie later this year in November, and so this book and Dune I was going to read in September originally, in anticipation of the movies coming out again. But with Dune, there were talks of it moving. With this one, I don't think the movie's going to move. And if it does, I'm okay having read this way early. But I just wanted to read this book before the movie comes out so that I could compare and contrast them. But I enjoyed the Hunger Games trilogy. It's not a favorite book series of mine, but I enjoyed it. And this is yet another tome. It just passes the 500-page mark. It's like 510 pages, so it matches the definition of a tome for me. So I have 2 tomes this month, and I think I'm going to enjoy it. It focuses on Snow, apparently, the character, and I always found him fascinating in the books. So those are the 10 books that I plan to read in the month of September. What books are you going to read in September? What are you most excited about? Are there any new releases, or are they all old releases? If you've read any of the books that I'm going to be planning on reading, let me know which ones are your favorites and least favorites, and which ones you're most excited to see me read. Let me know all those thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.